Hello.
Hello, how are you?
How are you, Debra? Good
I
evening.
am great.
I think it's the first time we met. Did we meet before?
I was a couple of weeks ago on a pro, but I don't know if I met you, but
Okay,
it's good to meet you.
good to meet you, Debra. My name is Abdu. I'm part of Marrakesh Riyadh and the World Storytelling Cafe. I've been busy with a lot of things, but I'm now back to help with this as well. So this is Ali.
Awesome.
I think you saw Ali already. This is one of my colleagues.
Yes.
Good. How are
I'm
you
glad
doing?
to meet you.
Good to see. How are you doing?
I am doing great.
Great.
I'm dressed in my favorite costume is Mrs. Santa.
I love it. Is that your hair?
Not my real hair, no.
Oh, I was like, this is special. I've never seen something like that.
Yeah, I know. It's quite amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really amazing. Good. So waiting for John and other people to join us as well. Yeah. Right. We are in Marrakesh. It's beautiful. How is
Marrakesh? Oh, I want to travel. I'm like, I can't wait to get on a plane again.
So you never come to visit Marrakesh, really?
I have not been to Marrakesh yet.
Yeah.
I've traveled quite a bit and it's on my list.
Good.
So I'm hoping as soon as we are permitted to travel again, I will do so.
Yeah, you're welcome. You should come see us.
Yes.
Good, good.
I will be delighted. There are several times I've got several places on my list, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
Here comes John. Oh, Santa, you're with us. He's got his mic. He's muted.
Hi, John. Let me do this. You should.
Okay.
Hey.
Now, is my sound okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, Debra. Fine. That's.
Well, hello, Santa. We have work to do.
In fact, I think I'm going to change my name to Santa.
I think it's a perfect name, Santa John.
Yeah.
Well, I'm starting. I can't. It's a bit difficult to do, so I'll leave this John Rowe for the moment. Hi, Abdu. How are we doing?
Sure. Hey, this sort of.
Yeah, so we've got. I've been doing some Zoom Santa. I Zoomed Santa with a family earlier. So.
Oh, how lovely! We have to do all of our work virtual this year, but
yeah, I've got a few private houses that I'm going to, providing they sit me next to an open window or an open set of doors. So Santa's going to be standing in the doorway or.
Oh, that works.
Yeah.
Because yes, a lot of my work got canceled as Mrs. Santa Claus at the Ritz-Carlton and some other private clubs, but I'm doing my own bit of magic.
Yeah, we are. Well, I would normally at this time be at a big department store, in the States, at John Lewis down in Bristol.
Oh yes, John Lewis.
Yeah, so I'm their big West Country store, which is in Bristol. I'll normally be their Santa, but I'm just going to improve the light so I don't get the reflection in the screen. That's better.
Yes. With our glasses, we have to be aware of that.
Yeah. As long as I've got a photographic light that I use for just to strip, and that's stronger than the screen, so the reflection of the screen doesn't get in the glasses. So are we good, Ali? Are you good?
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, well, you're very important to us, Ali. I have to check on your health, make sure you're fine. Without you, it all falls apart.
I know my son lives in Glasgow, and he has transferred his filmmaking business into doing all kinds of multi-screened Zoom events, live performances with bands and stuff like that he's transmitting all across the world. So yesterday he did a filming of the Red Hot Chili Pipers.
I did. Oh.
Red Chili Pipers, not peppers, in Scotland, and for the president of Dell and Intel's birthday party. So, and he was so worried about the technicalities of things.
Right. Have we got Sharon with us yet? No, we've got Norman up there. Norman's got his Halloween hat on. That's great.
It looks all spiffy.
It is. It's a proper silk one. It's a proper silk one. I can see from.
Yeah, yes, it's. I've even got the box that goes with it.
Yeah, I've got through so many of those. I mean, I had a beautiful one that was from 1910. It's a proper silk one. I can see.
The interior is in total
perfect because I used it for work. No, I've still got the proper silk one. Yeah, well, they were only supposed to last for a year, sort of Adidas. You know, when the kids just went that, oh, fantastic, Abdu, fantastic. Well,
you have your fez cap upon your head. Very nice.
This is my Moroccan hat, you see?
Yeah, yes. We're there. It's brilliant. So, so in the old days,
Sharon?
In the early days of top hats, everyone knew if you weren't wearing this year's top hat because the rim would be different. That's for Ali. Yeah, give it to Ali. Ali, he's got a hat for you. Abdu's got. Reach over, grab Abdu's hat.
Ali, as you see it, does it? Oh, it's a magic. You will see a magic.
That's it. He's coming on. He's coming back. He's coming back with the hat. Yeah, but it's not like the kids. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm very good. Yeah, like the kids all know if you're wearing last year's trainers or something. It was like that with top hats. So everyone knew whether you'd had made your hat lasted longer than a year because it was either too short or too tall, or the rim wasn't curled enough, and so what would happen? You'd have your one for best, and then you'd wear it for another year for every day, and then you give it to the servants. So, so they were never designed to be, so obviously they would get into tatters, and I was using them for performing all the time. So they just, 2 or 3 years of open air performing in a top hat, it would get killed them. So I now buy the cheap replicas and keep my silk for occasions.
Mine says Peerless Hat Manufacturing Limited, New York. The elite of fashion.
Absolutely. Well, I can't. It's got quite a flat rim, hasn't it?
Somewhat, yeah.
Oh, right.
Hasn't got much curl, and it's straight on the sides. It's all, it's kind of like almost stovepipe in not as tall, but it's kind of got that.
Yeah, it's hard to tell because I think somebody sat on it once or twice.
That'll do it. Yeah. I can see a slight kink in the with Sharon. We're Norman's top hat has become the focus of our discussion.
Where
you can see the light where it's been sat on. The light changes on the silk.
Yes.
It's
Is that a vintage hat, Norman?
It is.
It looks well worn, well used.
Yeah.
I'd love to know the stories.
Story.
Yeah.
What's the story of the hat?
Yeah, we want to know which rich person gave it to their servant.
Oh, right, yeah.
who flogged it at the sort of 19th century vintage shop. Ah,
A Toronto theater company was letting go of surplus, and so you can get the hat and the hat box for $20 Canadian. I thought, and I said,
Wow.
so,
oh, $20
Wow.
Canadian. Yeah, I'd have had that.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I paid £10 for my 1910 one in perfect condition, but it wasn't in perfect condition by the time I'd had it. So who are we here? We've got Jade in from Little Miracles. Hello, Jade. Right. Hi, Jenny. So we'll start. We'll start in about 3 minutes, and we'll have Sharon on first, and then so Sharon, if you do about 20 minutes or so, and then we'll move over to Debra, and she does 20 minutes or so, and then we'll have ourselves a fine party.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
just
John-
Are you both happy with that? You're both happy with that decision?
I'm absolutely happy. That's brilliant. Thank you very much, John. That's brilliant.
You can say hello to my daughter, Ginny, who came on.
Oh,
There
hello.
she is.
Hi,
She lives in
Jenny.
California.
Oh,
Oh, so I hadn't promised anyone else a set tonight because I've kind of got out. So I've got Debra, Sharon, then Debra. Everyone else is listening. Norman, I hadn't promised you a participation tonight, did I?
No, you did not. If you had need of me, I have a short story about diapers.
You're fine with that. You're
Yeah.
fine. We'll leave it to the two women to deal with
Of course,
Christmas,
yes.
because
I'm
men
saving
always
this
bring
for
down the
after
tone.
Christmas.
Okay.
Okay, but I
Now-
need to say something. I just found out a friend of mine is in emergency in hospital. I cannot go see her because of the COVID conditions. But if I get a phone call, I'm just going to drop everything and
Just leave.
yeah.
fair enough.
Right. Okay.
Oh.
Hello, Louis.
Hi,
Hello,
Louise.
Hi,
John.
Louis. Hi, Louis.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, we'll start in about a minute. Now, I've got a question. Now we've got a few people up. Is my sound still okay?
Yes.
It's fine. It's good. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good.
It wasn't really working very well on a Chromebook, but I've just added a webcam to it, and it seems to have improved life. Okay, well that's really good, because we've got 10 participants in. We'll leave it one more. Ali, who's driving the bus tonight? Is it Ali driving the bus, or Abdu's driving the bus? Right. We're letting Ali have a rest. Okay. Are you all set, Ali? Abdu, are you all set? Is it good? Are we good to start?
Shall we start?
Okay. We'll do that. We'll start. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, and assembled company, welcome to the World Storytelling Cafe, and a very special Christmas special tonight on our Friday Children's Night. And we've got Sharon Carr with us and Debra Weller. And we will begin, well, by welcoming everybody, our regulars from Little Miracles and Louis, but I'm going to hand the floor over to the wonderful, the amazing, the fantastic Sharon Carr. Big round of applause for Sharon.
Oh, thank you so much, John. That was really a great welcome. And Merry Christmas, everyone. And at first, I'm going to start with a little bit of a Christmas song, which I think you might know, and there might be Jingle Bells. So we're just going to start with a little bit of that called Jingle Bells, Jingle all the way.
Sharon, you've muted yourself.
Oh, well, I've enjoyed myself singing Jingle Bells to myself. It looked quite good as well. Thank you very much for that. Let me start again. Just one refrain. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun we had to ride in one horse open sleigh. Well, there you are. You had a muted Jingle Bells, and now you've had the live Jingle Bells. And welcome to World Storytelling Cafe's very special, as John has said, very special evening, Friday evening, Christmas stories from myself, Sharon Carr, and from Debra Weller in the United States. And well, this time next week, Friday, it's going to be Christmas Day. And whatever time you are in the world, time zone, well, by this time, 6 o'clock in the evening, you might have had your Christmas meal. You're celebrating with family, with friends, by yourself, or at work, wherever you're celebrating with. And you might have eaten your turkey, your pork, your lamb, your curry, your vegetable casserole, however you celebrate it. But you know, Christmas isn't just about feasting, isn't just about drinking and eating. It's about sharing, isn't it? It's about kindness, it's about giving, it's about being together. And as you know, some people cannot be together, particularly now during COVID-19. It's very exceptional circumstances. But I'm going to share a favorite story of mine that I tell at Christmas time. And it's originally from the Ukraine. And it's the story of the Christmas spider. But it's my version of the Christmas spider. For this concerns an old couple who lived in a big old house in the countryside, many, many rooms, and they'd lived there for many, many years. Married for a long, long time. Their families lived very far away from them and didn't get to see them that often. But that couple were not alone. For there, up in the attic, at the top of the house, lived a family of spiders. Now, the old couple, the old man and the old woman, couldn't really get to the attic these days. It's just a bit too much for them to get up there. So the spiders, well, the grandparent spiders who had moved in with the couple when they first married and when they first got married and bought the house, well, up there in the attic, in the top of the house, they'd made it their home. They had covered it with all their cobwebs, beautiful silvery cobwebs. There goes my bells. They'd filled it with between the boxes, in the corners of the room, between the rafters, between the floorboards. Oh, the silvery, beautiful cobwebs. And the whole attic was covered in beautiful, lacy cobwebs. And the grandparent spiders had had their children who became parent spiders and had all their little spiders, all the grandchildren. And every Christmas, downstairs, it was so quiet. And sometimes the spiders might hear mumbling of voices. And they might hear the old man raising his glass to his wife and chinking it together, a little glass of sherry, wishing each other a Merry Christmas. They might have wished them bought presents for each other. And occasionally the phone would ring and they would have conversations with their families who lived very, very far away. And the spiders might hear carols on the wireless and the ripping of paper as presents were exchanged. But it was usually a very peaceful, very quiet Christmas until one year it happened. The spiders all woke up one Christmas morning and there they heard voices downstairs, laughter and giggling and shouting, a lot of mumbling of voices. And the little spiders who weren't used to that turned to the parent spiders and said, "Who is it? What's happening downstairs?" And the grandparent spiders, who were wise, because they'd lived in another house, which had been a lively house before they moved in with the old couple all those years ago, said, the families of the old couple have come to visit them. Let's go downstairs and see it. So one by one, the spiders began to descend the threads, one by one. And those that could ride on the threads, the gossamer threads, they surfed down there between the floorboards, between the rafters, down, down, down the stairs until they arrived at the entrance of the living room. There they all huddled close together, but they had to be careful because, as you know, many people do not like spiders. They might have been stepped on or they might have been swatted aside. And there, with their many eyes, they peeked in around the corner and saw in the living room all these people standing there, dressed in beautiful, bright clothes, holding glasses up. And in the center, were the old couple, the old man and old woman. And they were smiling, and they were being toasted to. And there was bright laughter, and it was giggling and shouting and singing. But it was something in the corner that caught their eyes, the spider's many, many eyes. There by the roaring fire in the hearth, it was that of a tree, a beautiful Christmas tree. There, decorated. It had on every branch baubles like these, shining. It had candles lit on every branch, just above the baubles like these. Wrapped around it were strings of popcorn and garlands of dried fruits and flowers. And underneath were boxes, all shapes and sizes, wrapped up in brightly colored paper and wrapped with bows and little bits of paper tags with bits of black writing on them. Spiders with many eyes, they became even wider, and they turned to their parent spiders and the grandparent spiders and said, "Oh, look at that tree, it's so beautiful. Oh, we'd love to decorate it. Could we put our webs all over it? Could we do it now?" As they began to scuttle forward. But their parents spiders pulled them back and said, "No, no, no, it's not safe. If you scuttle between their feet, they might stamp on you. Or if you ride in on your gossamer threads, weaving your way between the people, they might swat you away. No, let's go back upstairs to the attic, to our place of safety." Much as the little spiders didn't want it, the grandparent spider said, "Listen to your parents." And they all began to scuttle out into the hallway, up the stairs. And those floating on their gossamer threads floated up, up, up to the safety of the attic, to the top of the house. But the little spiders wanted to go downstairs. They wanted to decorate that Christmas tree with their beautiful gossamer thin, fine webs. And they asked, and they begged, and they pleaded with their parents. And eventually, well, the grandparents, spiders said, "Let them go down, but not yet. Let the house fall silent. Let everyone go to sleep, and we will wait." And they did, up there in the attic in the top of the house. All the spiders huddled together, waited. And very soon, all that laughter, all that singing, all that babble of voices died away. And the spiders heard people coming up the stairs. They got to the floors, opened and shut the doors, and the spiders heard the voices saying, "Merry Christmas. See you in the morning. Sleep well. Merry Christmas." And the voices all died away. It was silent. It was peaceful. And the little spiders began to move forward. And the grandparent spiders said, "Go and do what you want to do. And remember, this is Christmas Eve, time of magic." The little spiders began to descend one by one, down, down, down the threads. Those that loved to ride and surf on the gossamer threads went down through the cracks in the floor, through the rafters, down underneath the door, and very soon they're surfing down those stairs, where they all arrived in a group at the entrance to the living room. They looked in with all their many eyes. They saw that the fire had died down in the hearth, and there were just a few embers lighting up the room with that rich, fiery glow, lighting it up gently. It looked so cozy. And the spiders began to scuttle along the floor. Those that had descended down through the cracks, those that flew through the air, and they landed on the tree. And they began to cover the tree with their fine gossamer threads. Those that settled around the floor climbed up the trunk and began to wind their gossamer threads around the baubles, around the branches, around the candles, and even climbing up to the top of the tree, they wound their silvery white threads around the star. And then they all climbed down, one by one. Those that had flown flew down and joined that group, and together they looked up, looked at that tree with their many eyes, and it's all covered with a fine silvery white gossamer thread. It was then they heard outside at night. What were the bells? Where were they coming from? They all turned as that one group and looked and watched through the window as they saw a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer there, climbing, flying through the sky. And a little old driver so lively and quick, those spiders didn't know it was St. Nick. And they flew higher and higher and higher until they were out of sight. And then the spiders heard the sleigh and the deer arrive on the top of the roof at the top of the house. And they heard the stamping of little hooves. Then they heard somebody jump out and heard the snow crunching as they walked across the roof. Then there was silence. And then the spiders turned around because they heard somebody or something coming down the chimney. And as if they saw little bits of soot falling down on those embers in the fireplace. And they saw a pair of boots, followed by a pair of legs in red, which were looking a bit grubby, a bit sooty, followed by a very vast, well, trying to squeeze himself somebody with a vast stomach, and with some rather grubby fur, white fur around the middle, followed by arms, and eventually that figure somersaulted, tumbled into the room, followed by a sack. Soot was everywhere. The little spiders grouped together out of fear because they had heard that people are not kind. They either swat them away or stamp on them. But that figure that got up and shook himself and all the soot fell off him like snow that would, he turned around and saw there in the light of the embers coming from the fireplace, he saw 1,000 little eyes looking at him down on the floor. And the old man with that vast white beard, which was a little bit grubby from the soot, from having come down from that chimney, he smiled at them and he pressed his finger on the side of his nose. And at that moment, all those little spiders did not feel that sense of fear, and they all dispersed out and looked at him with those thousands of little eyes in curiosity. And he sat down. And with his sack, he opened it and he began to bring out the presents that were inside. A little Jack-in-the-Box puppet, which he put underneath the tree. A little teddy bear, which he brought out and put underneath the tree. He brought out one of those little Russian dolls, which is a doll inside and a doll inside, and he put that under the tree. And then he stood up and he looked at the tree. We're covered with all those fine white gossamer cobwebs. And he smiled at the spiders, touched the side of his nose, and when he waved his hand, before there were millions of eyes in wonderment as they watched, that tree began to shimmer, rainbow colors. It began to glow. It began to glitter. And those white gossamer threads were what once they had decorated that tree, had now become silver and gold. And then the old man, or whoever this was, but they didn't know it was St. Nick, turned, looked at the spiders, smiled at them, and then pressed on the side of his nose, whoosh, up the chimney he rose. And the spiders heard someone land on the roof, crunch their way over to wherever it was in the sleigh. Up, getting into the sleigh, then he heard the prancing and pawing of each little hoof of all those reindeers. And they heard, now Donder, now Blitzen, crack of the whip. And once again, that sleigh with those 8 tiny reindeer was up in the sky. They couldn't see it until they all looked, until they all turned, and they saw that 8 little miniature reindeer and the sleigh. And the little old driver so lively quick, those spiders at the moment didn't know it was St. Nick. I'm so excited. They all turned and began to make their way up to the attic, up to their home, scuttling up through the stairs, through the cracks of the floorboards, up to the rafters, those that love to fly, this time with a little bit of the tinsel, which they didn't know at the time, they flew up, up, up those stairs, up into the attic, up into the top of the house where the grandparent spiders and their parent spiders were waiting for them. And they told them all of the adventures, all of what had happened downstairs. And who was that man, the little spiders asked. The grandparent spiders, who were so wise, said, Father Christmas, Saint Nick, that's who you've met. And because you gave the gift of your cobwebs to the tree, he in turn has made that a gift for you by turning your threads into silver and gold. And after that, they all had a very Merry Christmas. And that is meant to be the story of how the first tinsel was ever created. And I don't know if you want to believe that or not, but in Ukraine, it is lucky to have a little spider ornament put in the Christmas tree every single Christmas. And that is my version of the Christmas spider. Merry Christmas, everyone.
That was beautiful, Sharon. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I shall never look at a spider the same way again.
With thousands of little eyes.
So many good stories. Well, and have yourself a wonderful Christmas then, Sharon. Now we have specially flown in. She's flown in all the way from the United States. We have, isn't it wonderful? The upside of all this is that we're having people from all over the world. And Debra Weller, she did a wonderful children's program about 2 weeks ago, I think, and she's with us again now. And so could you please put your hands together and welcome once more into the cafe for this children's night, this very special one, Debra Weller.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, well, you know, I also got to be up in the North Pole. And quite a lot is going on there. We've been so busy up at the North Pole. I'm in charge of the storytelling to the baby elves and managing all the things in the kitchen and making sure everybody's on their schedules. But also up at the North Pole, we have excitement building. We're so close, but we have a lot to do. I just want to tell you about a mishap that happened in the kitchen today. I invited all the elves to come in and help me make cookies because we love cookies at the North Pole, and our friend Santa, he loves them too. And we got out the big bowls, we poured in the flour, we poured in the sugar, we cracked the eggs, we put in the butter, we mixed it all up, and we took the dough and put it out on the counter and rolled it this way and that way and this way and that way. And we took the cookie cutters of Christmas trees and gingerbread and stars, and we cut out all the cookies and put them in the pan. But the elves, this is when they got a bit naughty. Yes, they got so excited about the flour and the sugar that they began to toss it in the air. And before you know it, they were all covered. It looked like it had snowed in the kitchen in Santa's North Pole home. White was everywhere. The elves were white. The floor was white. They were dancing too. The cookies were finally baked and I put them to side and I looked. But those little elves, they can't help but have a good time. And even though they're a bit naughty, they want to be on the nice list, just like you want to be on the nice list. And so we got out the brooms and the dustpans and we swept and then we scoured everything and brought it back to that beautiful, clean kitchen that it used to be. So I'm warning you now, if any of you have a little elf at your house, a little elf on the shelf, be very wary because the elves occasionally like to cause some mischief. And now I want to tell you one of our favorite stories that I get to tell at the North Pole. It makes me so happy indeed to bring this story to you. And it comes from a very cold place. It is actually a story that comes from Denmark. And right now, they're having a bit of winter there, indeed. And so I want to share with you, now I'm playing my guitar, so you will hear it in the background. And you are invited to help sing a part in the story, and it goes this way. We'll practice first. Trolls, 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 trolls. Yes, this story's about trolls, because way up north on the Dovrefell, trolls exist on the side of the mountain. And now may the story begin. The King of Denmark had gathered all of his friends into the palace and said, on Christmas Day, we are going to have a feast, but I want to invite animals to come to the feast. Everyone, look, animals? Here in the palace? Yes, I want to invite the animals to thank them for taking care of the earth. Now I need someone to go out and find me a great white polar bear, because he will be the special guest on Christmas Day. A trapper stood up and said, King, I will go out into this blizzard of a night and find a polar bear to bring for Christmas Day. It was Christmas Eve, and the trapper put on his heavy hat with fur lining, and his jacket, and his gloves, and his boots. He opened the heavy doors of the palace, and he walked out into what was beginning as a light snowfall. But as he started to climb up the Dovrefell, the snow came down. It started lightly. You could see all the patterns in the snowflakes. But it got heavier and heavier. Now further ahead on that mountain, there was a polar bear. The polar bear thought, oh, it's getting cold, and began to make its nesting cave out of the snow so it could crawl inside and stay warm for the evening. The sun was beginning to get lower in the sky, and the trapper was trudging up the mountain in the deep snow, and the snow was falling and the wind was blowing. Can you make the wind blow? The trapper bumped into something, and that something was the polar bear. And the polar bear rose up and shook off the snow. Said, what do you want that you awaken me? And the trapper said, polar bear, I am not here to hurt you. I am here to give you an invitation to the palace. The king has invited you to come for Christmas Day for a fine feast. He's inviting all the animals, and I was sent to invite you. The polar bear looked this way and that way. You're not going to trap me? No, I won't. It's a promise. And the king won't trick me. No, he wants you as an honored guest. Well then, I shall come with you. And the polar bear followed the trapper down the mountain. But as they went down that mountain, it got deeper and deeper with the snow. They knew they would not be able to get to the palace that night. They would need to seek shelter. They looked this way and they looked this way, couldn't find anything. But when they looked straight ahead, there was a tiny light glowing from what appeared to be a cottage down below. They trudged through that snow, deeper and deeper. Together they went until they came to the cottage that had the glowing light. And they knocked upon the door. The door opened. And there standing was a man dressed in his finest clothes. He looked at the polar bear. He looked at the trapper. And he thought, what brings you out on such a night? It's Christmas Eve. You should be in your homes getting ready for a fine feast. Ah, kind sir, the King of Denmark sent me to find a polar bear to bring back to the palace. And this is the polar bear. But we cannot continue in this weather. Would we be able to stay in your barn tonight? Ha! Oh, you picked the, you picked the worst night of the year to ask me that question, said the man. Well, why is that? Because tonight is Christmas Eve. And every Christmas Eve, the trolls come down from the mountain. And they come in our house. They eat all of our food. They sleep in our beds. And they cause a terrible mess. And we have to come back on Christmas morning and clean it all up. Because you see, my family will not stay here tonight. No, we're going to stay in the barn, but you are welcome to come into our home if you so dare. And the polar bear looked at the man, and the man looked at the polar bear, and they looked at the trapper, and the trapper said, ah, it's a deal. We'll come inside. Trolls don't bother me, said the trapper. When they came in the house, the family was bustling all about. The table was set in fine linen tablecloths and beautiful china and crystal. There was fish boiled in lye, potatoes roasted in butter, vegetables in the oils, and puddings and cakes. All delicious food piled upon the table. And as soon as the family looked at the clock at 11:30 p.m., the mother and the children, they gathered their blankets and their pillows. They said, good night, we'll see you on Christmas Day. We hope you do not get frightened by the trolls. And the whole family went off to sleep in the barn. The polar bear slid underneath the stove so he'd have a warm, cozy place to sleep for a change. And the trapper hid in the closet. At the strike of midnight, a door up on the side of the mountain opened. The king of the trolls opened that door and announced, okay, trolls, it's time to go below and have yourself a merry little Christmas. And the trolls started leapfrogging over one another, but let me tell you about those trolls. They're not very tall, and they're a bit chubby indeed. They have pointy little ears with potatoes growing out of them. They never trim their nose hairs, so their nose hairs are curled upon the edge. Their beards are long and shaggy, and their hair is all matted because they never take a bath. They never wash their hair, and they never brush their teeth. In fact, those trolls are smelly indeed. But it didn't stop them. They don't care. They have no manners. They rolled down the mountain. They jumped over one another, the tall ones, the short ones, and they began to sing as they went down the mountain. Trolls, 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 trolls. Short ones, tall ones, fat ones, skinny ones. Trolls, 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 trolls. They rambled all the way down the mountain until they crashed into the door of the house. They opened that door and they all ran inside. They have no manners indeed. They climbed up on the table. They took the fish boiled in lye and started eating it. They ate the potatoes and they ate it with their hands. They smeared the jelly on their faces and they started to drink the punch that was made for the wassail, and they slaughtered it down and they let it drip from their chins. They ate and they ate and they ate and they drank and they drank and they drank until their bellies were bulging. And all of them began to feel a bit tired from the feast. I think we need to sleep. And they all found a place on the floor, on the table, wherever they could to fall asleep. But one little baby troll did not fall asleep. That one little baby troll who couldn't see very well peered over by the stove. Now the polar bear was sleeping under that stove, and because the little troll couldn't see so well, the little troll called out, "Hey, pussycat, hey, pussycat, can I give you a hot sizzling sausage?" The polar bear was still and quiet. But that little baby troll went over to the stove, and there on the top, on the burner, was a pan with hot, sizzling sausages. The little baby troll picked up a fork and stuck it into that hot, sizzling sausage. And he took it and put it right on the polar bear's nose. Do you think a polar bear would like a hot sizzling sausage on its nose? The polar bear did not like it. He rose up from beneath that stove. Can you make a polar bear sound? Rah, rah. At that moment, all of the trolls woke up. And they started screeching. Can you screech? Ah, 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 oh, yay! And the trolls started tumbling over one another. Some jumped out the windows. Some ran over to the door. And they all started screeching and screaming. Trolls, 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 trolls. Short ones, tall ones, fat ones, skinny ones. Trolls, 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 trolls. Those trolls ran up the side of the mountain, screaming and shoving and pushing one another. Our Christmas is ruined! They were throwing their temper tantrums all the way there. And the king Trond, the troll king, saw them coming. He opened the door in the side of the mountain, and all those trolls came in. Trolls, 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 trolls. Short ones, tall ones, fat ones, skinny ones. Trolls, 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 trolls. Those trolls came in grumbling and groaning. Christmas was ruined. And they were stamping their feet and throwing their temper tantrums and shoving and pushing one another and whining and complaining. And the king of the trolls was hearing all this commotion and hearing the moaning and groaning. He said, "Huh, who dares to mess up our Christmas Eve?" And with that, there was a boulder right outside the door on the side of the mountain. The king of the trolls with other trolls pushed the boulder. It went rumbling and grumbling all the way down the side of the mountain, getting faster and faster with its momentum. And it surely was going to crash into the house, but it stopped just this far from the door. Well, inside of the house, the polar bear and the trapper were on the table dancing. The trolls are gone, the trolls are gone, hooray, hooray, the trolls are gone. Well, they were dancing and singing, and the family was still out in the barn. They heard the rumbling and looked out and saw the boulder. They also saw the door in the side of the mountain closed shut. And the family looked this way and that way. They couldn't hear any trolls. They couldn't see any trolls. They couldn't smell any trolls. So they knew it was safe to go back to their home. They pushed the boulder aside so they could open the door. And when they went inside, they saw the polar bear and the trapper dancing. The trolls are gone, the trolls are gone, hooray, hooray, the trolls are gone. They couldn't believe it. What? What? The trolls are gone? What do you mean? We scared them away for sure. You'll never have to worry about them again. Are you sure? They always ruin our Christmas Eve. Oh, not anymore. Oh, not anymore. So with that, the family got to work with the polar bear and the trapper, and they swept the floor, and they mopped the floor, and the mother had put away and hidden some of the food so they could have their own Christmas. And now it was the wee hours of the morning, but they were going to celebrate a Christmas browse on the Dovrefell no matter what. And they washed all the dishes. This is the way we wash the dishes. And they reset the table. And then the family sat down. They said their prayers of gratitude. They thanked the polar bear and they thanked the trapper and invited them to stay for the 12 days of Christmas. But the trapper said, "Oh, no, I have a gift to the king and I must deliver it. He's an honored guest at the palace, this beautiful polar bear." And the polar bear just snorted with great pride. When it was over, they bade their fond farewells and thanked them for making a Christmas miracle on the Dovrefell happen. And the trapper and the polar bear went off to the palace. The polar bear was greeted and given a holly wreath to wear around his neck. And there was another fine feast awaiting them. And for 3 days and 3 nights, they feasted for the Christmas. And that is the beautiful story of the cat on the Dovrefell. Christmas is coming, the geese are getting fat. Please to put a penny in the old man's hat. If you haven't got a penny, then a halfpenny will do. If you haven't got a halfpenny, then God bless you. God bless the master of this house and the mistress also, and all the little children that round the table go, and all your kins and kinsmen that dwell both far and near. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Fantastic. Thank you, Deborah. That was great. And thank you, Sharon. What a lovely, what a lovely duo we've had tonight. We've got some great stuff coming up over the weekend. I'll get this thing quickly because at 2 o'clock in the afternoon GMT, we've got young tellers from Nepal. We've got some young storytellers from Nepal, and then in the evening at 6 o'clock GMT, we've got Dave Tong's Christmas special, and then and Sunday we've got Ina Bolston from Romania and some hairy fellow with a white. Oh, me. And I shall be telling some stories, and so it goes on. But for now, Deborah, fantastic. Another round of applause for Deborah. And another round of applause for Sharon. And we wish you a very Merry Christmas. And Louis, you have a fantastic Christmas. Norman.
And you. Josh.
Thank you very much, Louis. And Norman, you have yourself a good Christmas too. You have a fantastic one. And a fine hat it is. Wherever you are and however you're listening, and whatever winter festival you're celebrating, have a great celebration. Good night, everybody.
Night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Bye.
Louis. Night. Merry Christmas, everybody, and night. Thank you so much.
God bless us, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Abdu. Ah, fantastic.
Okay, thank you, my friends, for putting this on.